Good evening and welcome to the Writer's Block. I'm your host, John Ronan, and as you know now, because we're in our 27th year, I talk to writers about their craft, what they're working on right now, what they've accomplished, what they're planning for the future. The writers might be poets, they might be journalists, they might be novelists. It's a broad brush there. They also, our guests that is, might even not be writers. When we're lucky, we have had on some variety. We've had on painters, we've had on musicians, we've had on actors, sculptors. It's a very, very wide net, not just writers. So if you have an idea for someone who might be good for the Writer's Block, writer or not, watch for our address at the end of the show. We'd be glad to get your suggestions. I also want to point out that the Writer's Block, along with all the other local original programming that comes out of Cape Ann TV, is a result of cable access television. You don't get that wonderful community service with dish access to television. Don't pay attention to those dish commercials. You stick with cable. Tonight, I'm very happy to say we do have some variety. We're going to get off the writer's beaten path. We have a gentleman who has been a guest on the show a long, long time ago. Very happy to have back Henri Smith, who is a longtime jazz vocalist, TV and radio mogul and star, as well as an educator and a businessman here on Cape Ann. Henri Smith is originally from New Orleans, where he went to high school, junior high, at Sam Green Junior High. He went to Walter Cohen High School and then on to Southern University at Baton Rouge. He was a teacher for several decades, many years, for the Archdiocese of New Orleans, and we're going to talk about that career in a minute. He also, for many years in New Orleans, was singing jazz. And he had also his own radio show at WWOZ called Jazz Fest and his own television show, New Orleans Live. He moved from New Orleans and that wonderful heat down there up north to Gloucester right after Katrina in 2005. He had met Nat Simpkins of Manchester, who played with him and visited him in New Orleans, knew a lot of his friends. So when he came up north, he hooked up with Nat, who's also been on the show, and has been here in Gloucester ever since. Henri Smith, welcome back to the show.
John, thank you so much. I'm happy to be back. This is one of the things I really like to do is television and radio. So I thank you for inviting me today.
We talked just before the show about how you could stand to come up here because it's so lousy cold. And we had a couple winters ago that was, it broke records.
Yeah.
Did you ever think about going back to New Orleans?
Well, I thought about going back to New Orleans when they found that half a $5 bill in the snow and they didn't defrost till maybe July. And I said, wow, that must have been a really bad winter. But, Gloucester is such a beautiful area. If I had to retire, this is where I would retire. I mean, I couldn't spell Gloucester when I was in New Orleans, but here I am. And now it's so beautiful. So I sacrificed the snow versus the summers here in Gloucester.
The past summer was fabulous.
Fabulous.
Nice summer.
Yes.
Drought, but
yeah.
If you didn't mind.
Well, I got scared the first time I was here on October 13th. I'll never forget that. I played at this place, 7 Central in Manchester.
Of 05.
Of 05. Uh-huh. And it was October 13th. So I'm singing. If you've ever been there, there's a big window there. I'm singing, and here comes these large flakes of snow. And I'm saying, is this what I have to look forward to? And so I've been here ever since. It'll be 11 years. It was 11 years on September 13th.
That was October it was snowing?
It was October 13th. I'll never forget that day.
That's even earlier for us.
Yeah.
I remember one year it snowed on my wife's birthday. We had a little party outside. It was May 18th.
Wow.
And it snowed. That's when you think about getting out.
Yeah.
When you were educated in New Orleans.
Yes.
And at Baton Rouge at the university. And then when did you begin teaching right after that? What was your major education?
I began teaching somewhere around, it wasn't too far after that, but I was doing other things too. I wasn't singing as much, but I was in sales mostly. And then I was offered a position at a school in the Archdiocese. But before the Archdiocese, I was 5 years into the public system. And I taught that, and then I went into the Archdiocese. And then I spent 30 years in the Archdiocese teaching physical education, an athletic director for all those years, because I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do. I wanted to do my own thing.
So you're going to be the director.
Yeah, I was the director, and I
What-
would coach all sports.
At what level were you teaching?
Elementary, middle, and coaching in the middle.
So up to 12,
Up to 8th grade.
12 years old? Or-
Eighth grade, yes.
or
Yeah.
and at the same time, you were performing.
I was performing on weekends to get the stress from teaching.
Is that how it started?
That's how
Is that
it
how
was.
it started?
Yeah, and I was offered. And I've done. I'm an actor. I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild also, and so I've done lots of movies. People could see me like in Shutter Island and Double Jeopardy. I did those back then, and recently doing Ghostbusters. I don't know where I am in there because I had to get the new DVD, but Ghostbusters and the Equalizer with Denzel. I did 2 of those. The Equalizer and
Have you
the
met
Great.
him?
The great, yes, I
You-
did. The Great Debaters, and I met him on the Great Debaters, and we talked for a long time. And he was very nice. He just gave me some encouragement when he was leaving the set. Just keep on doing what you're doing. And he knows some of my friends in New Orleans, so they were going to introduce me to him, but I introduced myself on the Great Debaters.
I like him a lot for his personal life.
Yeah.
Aside from being a talented director and actor, he's been married to the same woman. He's got a nice family, 30 years, and they stay away from all that
All that-
Hollywood.
that's right. He
garbage.
does.
Yeah,
He
he
does.
does.
But what a great man. He's such a nice person.
That's good to hear. A
Yeah.
lot of those guys out there
Yeah.
aren't.
Yeah.
So did you, when you were in grade school, was there someone in your family or someone in the school who influenced you towards,
Yes, there
towards
was.
music?
Toward entertainment, and that was Miss Grace Plick.
Grace Blake.
Plick. She was my English teacher, and she would put on and do performances and have us to perform in her performances. And she used to always pick me to go perform, which I didn't. I just liked her, and I liked to perform, and so we would always. She would always stick me somewhere into.
So she
summer
saw that
camp.
right away.
She
Did you
must
like
have.
it?
She always did have a liking to me, and always put me in different positions to act, sing.
And this is at
This
Green,
was at Walter L.
Sam-
Coyne. This was at Coyne,
Oh,
in
it's
high school. Yeah.
High school.
Yeah.
Grace,
Now, grade school, at junior high, I was influenced by a gentleman by the name of Mr. Alvin Batiste. He was a clarinetist who taught me at Samuel James Green, and then he taught me at Southern University. So I was able to get a double dose of him.
he was teaching at both places, or he
He
migrated?
migrated to the university.
He's got a real New Orleans name, Baptiste.
Oh yeah, he
Baptiste.
was something else. He's no longer with us, but unfortunately he passed the day he was supposed to perform at Jazz Fest
Really?
that morning. Yeah.
On your show?
No, not on my show, on his show, but he
Oh.
passed that morning, and we lost him that morning. But what a great person who was always encouraging. He would always encourage me. I had so many people encouraging me. I didn't, some of the time I just wanted to do it. That was just the whole thing.
It's nice to have somebody who's kind of
Yeah.
brings you along, and then you see him again.
Yeah, and then there was a guy who was on radio named Kermit Ruffins, and I used to bring him on radio, and he made his first CD at a place called Tipitina's in New Orleans. It's a famous place where you go listen to music.
I've heard that name.
And I used to perform with him on Sundays, and he used to bring me by, he made a CD with the national anthem on it, and with the trumpet, and just him and the trumpet. And every time I played my show, I would play the national anthem on my show. I would always do that. And
Play that recording of
that
it.
recording of it. Yeah, live at Tipitina's, 1999. I'm the first voice on that CD.
That's a nice tradition.
Yeah,
Very
it is.
nice tradition.
It is. It was. The people loved it too. Every time they knew every time I got on air. I had 2 radio shows a week, one on Thursday and one on Saturday. And every time I played the night. They knew I was coming on, so they'd listen to the national anthem. They knew that was me.
So you were busy.
I was
I
busy.
mean, you're teaching full time,
Right.
And then you got the shows on TV and radio,
And radio, that's right.
and you're performing.
And I'm performing on the
And
weekend.
teaching was not just a sidelight. I know you mentioned before the show, not only you're a full-time teacher, dedicated, but you won a major award
Oh, yes,
you
we
mentioned-
did.
Tell us about that.
This. I was teaching at a school called St. Leo the Great, and Bill Bennett was he was the over the Department of Education. So it was the Irish Dominican nuns who ran the school, and I was teaching the physical education, and they asked me to write a curriculum in the Irish and American form. And it took me 3 months on my mother's porch, sit there constantly trying to write it up, researching and trying to get
Curriculum in Irish and American.
the Irish and American form, what they do in Ireland in physical education versus what is done in America in physical education. So I had to blend those together and then write that curriculum. And lo and behold, that curriculum was cited when we won the national award for the Department of Education,
National award.
School of Excellence.
Really?
Yeah. So I do a little writing.
Yeah, you do a little writing, so you fit on all kinds of categories.
Yeah, right.
I mentioned before the show I wanted to talk about your New Orleans background, and then if you felt like it, ask you to, as a jazz vocalist, to vocalize.
Sure.
Could you tell us what you think you might pick?
Well, I'll pick. I wrote this song. So that since we on the writer's block, I say
Yeah, absolutely.
it's called. It's on my latest compact disc, and I sing it in my performances. It's called "That's When I Know It's Mardi Gras."
That's when I know it's
Mardi Gras.
And what's the title of the compact disc?
It's Henri Smith live at the Larkham Theater
Henri Smith
Live at the Larkham
Theater.
in Beverly. I did it 2 years ago with Charles Neville and Amity Castanel. So that's the title of the CD.
Live, Henri Smith live
At the Larkham.
Larkham.
Right.
Henri Smith live at the Larkham.
Yeah.
Look at that. I'm looking
Yeah.
at the wrong camera. Henri Smith live at the Larkham CD.
So it goes something like this.
Please.
I like the tambourines ringing. I like to dance and have my fun. I like the tambourines ringing. I like to dance and have my fun. And when the big chief come through, that's when I know it's Mardi Gras. The crowd starts jumping when they see the Zulu King. Oh yeah, the crowd starts jumping when they see the Zulu King. And when I get my coconut, that's when I know it's Mardi Gras. The second line is swinging all the way down in Treme. Oh yeah, the second line is swinging all the way down in Treme. And when the horns start blowing, that's when I know it's Mardi Gras. Bourbon Street is rocking, people drinking sweet, sweet wine. Oh Lord, Bourbon Street is rocking, people drinking sweet, sweet wine. Give me a nickel and a dollar, and I know I'm gonna get mine. That's when I know it's Mardi Gras. 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 And when the Indians come, that's when I know it's Mardi Gras.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have never had the privilege of being at Mardi Gras. I don't know if it's ever going to
Well,
happen.
that's how
But
that's why I wrote it like that, so people who don't know about it can understand that this is the way it is down there on Mardi Gras Day. People like the horns are blowing in the street, bands are playing all over the place.
have you been down there since you left
For Mardi Gras?
For Mardi Gras?
No. I had my share of Mardi Gras days.
I'd be afraid of going to Mardi Gras. At least
But I'm going to go again, though. But usually, the locals don't usually go down on Bourbon Street and all that. I didn't go to Bourbon Street. My mother wouldn't allow me to go to Bourbon Street. She knew all the decadence.
And the locals are tired of it?
Yeah, they don't even go. You know, if you take it for granted, actually. But on Mardi Gras, a lot of the locals have like picnics. They'll go to the avenue called Napoleon Avenue because that's where all the parades are going down all day long. So they set up camp with the barbecue, the hot dogs, the red beans and rice, the, everything, and they go down and sit down all day and just watch and catch bees off the floats. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I've seen that. I probably wouldn't have survived if I went down there in my 20s, and now I'm too old.
No, you have a good time.
That's a good marker for us to segue to your career up here north in the snow, beginning in September of '05.
Right.
What have you been doing up here since you got here?
Musically?
Well, I want a couple of things. I want to just leave it open to you to start. But musically, I want to mention your TV career here.
Yeah.
You said earlier you were in sales in the South, and you're in sales now.
Yeah.
So wherever you want to start, but I want
when I got up here, I knew I had to reinvent myself. I really did. I only had, come from New Orleans up here, you with nothing, you see the Salvation Armies. They will give you credit cards so you can keep moving on. And all the way up here, we did that. And then once I got up here, luckily, Nat Simpkins' parent had an apartment in Gloucester. So he gave it to me until I got on my feet. And like I had a pair of K-Swiss, some jeans, a Bahamas t-shirt. I still have all that together to remind me of whence I came. And London Fall Windbreaker. And so we were.
Windbreaker won't last for a winter up here. Right?
September wasn't bad.
Oh, September, yeah.
Yeah, so I came up here and stayed there, got on my feet. And first of all, I wanted to do something that I liked rather than teach. But I got offered a job at the Waring School in Manchester to coach basketball. And but I was so stressed with what I'd gone through, I just couldn't concentrate as well as I wanted to. So I let that go. But then I said, well, you're gonna have to do something. So I went to Bass Rocks golf course, and a fine gentleman by the name of Peter Hood. I asked him, I said, I'm a struggling actor, I'm a struggling musician, and I need a job. And he said, I was there on a Thursday, and that Monday he called me, you wanna come in and try it out? I said, sure. Well, I lasted there 4 years, cleaning golf clubs in the bag room. And I wanted to play golf. I wanted to do my movies and my acting, and I wanted to sing.
Do you play golf?
Oh yeah. And I didn't want to get involved in doing something else. But then it got to the point where I was offered by the wonderful family, the Sudbay family. They said, come on out of there and come and see if you could sell cars. Well, my sister sold cars and she was very successful, so that was a no-brainer for me. And
she's still selling cars down there?
No, she's not doing that. She's doing like medical sales and so forth. But she was in sales. We both were in sales. And I said, well, yeah, let's go. But because he gave me the opportunity, I didn't want to let them down, their family down. And I've been there 6 years now since then. And it's been a wonderful experience. It's Sudbay.
On 128?
Yeah, 88 Causeway. And if anyone would like to come out and share more stories, I'm willing.
That's the address, 88 Causeway?
88 Causeway in Gloucester.
What kind of address that would have?
Yeah.
But it's right there, you pass it coming into
Lobster Land.
Gloucester, yeah.
Right
there in the marshes in the back room.
Right, exactly. That marsh can be brutal too. It really can get cold on that marsh
I'm
when
sure,
you don't think
I'm
so.
Sure.
But
so you had some sales experience in New Orleans, and you've continued that, and you are at Sudbay now.
Yeah, and then I was trying to get bookings to do my music. And so I prayed, honestly, when I came up here that the Lord would send me some people from New Orleans, because I was alone. And I said, please send me somebody from New Orleans. And lo and behold, I had this piano player who's with me now for 11 years. He came with me and he said, I know somebody. He said, Charles Neville, the Neville Brothers. I said, what? Charles? I said, I used to introduce Charles at Jazz Fest every year. And when Charles Neville found out I was here, he came on by my side. And then Amadee Castanel, who won a Grammy with Dr. John. Charles won a Grammy with Aaron Neville. Amadee Castanel played with Vaz Domino, Elvis Costello. He played with Etta James. He played with Dave Bartholomew, all the greats of New Orleans and all over the world. He played with Alan Toussaint for 47 years. And he was on my other side. He came to play with me because he didn't know. He knew I coached his daughter for 5 years, taught his daughter health, and physical education, and taught her for 5 years. And then when he found out I was up here, and he had a big record on RCA Records called Groove City, but about New Orleans. But he said he would come with me. So those two guys, whenever he's not with Aaron, and he was going with Alan Toussaint, they would always be with me. And now they're still with me. So that was my prayers answered that I got with people from New Orleans. Then I started building with the piano. And then lately I've been working with the New England Conservatory and Berklee College of Music to get younger musicians to try to perpetuate this music of New Orleans. So I'm sort of like an ambassador of the New Orleans music and tradition. And that's how it came. You'll see in the album, you hear it's live. It's a live album, and you hear
the Larkham
is live, and you hear it. You hear what it was. And I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to have one of the greatest engineers in the world to do this, my CD, because he wanted to do it. And I know I couldn't have paid it for it. Bill Wynn. And Bill has worked with Herbie Hancock. He worked with Ashford and Simpson. He recently worked with Pharrell. He also did the White House International Jazz Show with the president. So he wanted to do my CD. Yeah, he wanted to do my CD, and he did the CD and mixed it, and it came out really good.
This is Henry Smith live at the Larkham Theater.
Yes. Henry Smith, New Orleans Friends and Flavors, but it's Henry Smith. You can find it.
While you were singing, we flashed your Facebook address up.
Okay.
So people can go to that and find out about the details about the CD.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, too, about the show that you had up here. You had a TV show called
Nolans, N-A-W-L-I-N-S. Nolans East. Everybody wants to say Nolans up here.
Nolans?
I say I'm going to call it Nolans East.
Nolans East.
Yeah, because there is a section of New Orleans that is the eastern section. And my family grew up, and I was with my family in New Orleans East. So I said, oh, wait a minute. I know what I'll call it. Because the other show was New Orleans Live. So let's do New Orleans East. And that's how we came about getting the title.
And that was for a year you had the show here?
It might have been longer than that. I really can't say. But
maybe we can get you back.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. It's just a time thing, trying to.
You sound like you've got about 28 hours in a day. I don't know how you do it, but you work full time.
Yeah.
And you perform weekends and nights sometimes.
Yeah, whenever
whenever you can.
Yeah, whenever I can. Yeah.
This is a little bit right off the top, but you said you were offered a job coaching basketball.
Yeah.
I know you were teaching physical education.
Right.
Are you an athlete?
Yeah, I was an athlete. I wasn't the biggest ones. I did a lot of it though when I was younger.
What were your sports?
I did shot put and discus when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah, and I did football. And now, some of these things say if you woulda, shoulda, coulda. My mother wanted me to play piano so bad. And she would send me to a lady called Miss Frere. And I didn't want to go down there and play piano. I wanted to play football, little basketball here and there. And I didn't go take the lessons. She didn't encourage me to keep pushing me to go. She didn't discourage me. But now, that's the if I woulda, shoulda, coulda. I wouldn't have to hire anybody.
Yeah.
But I just concentrate on my voice, and that's what's been good. See, I grew up in a neighborhood where Dave Bartholomew. I hope we have a little time. And where Dave.
I'm listening, but I got to keep my mind on
the
clock once in a while.
So I grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of the great historians of New Orleans music. Next door to me was the French family, who Papa French was the banjoist for Preservation Hall. So all of the guys from Preservation Hall would come to his house, they would rehearse, and then the Neville brothers would come and rehearse in the backyard. So I lived next door. When I heard them kick off, I'd go sit in the corner. And down the street was Dave Bartholomew, who wrote Blue Monday and all the Fast Domino hits, a lot of the hits, When My Dreamboat Comes, all of those hits. And I used to be in his house looking at all the gold records in awe of what he had and how did he do it, you know.
So you got inspired early. by
I really got
that.
inspired. And
Is this Eastern? Is this the east side of New Orleans?
no, this is
the
the uptown side of New Orleans. This is uptown. That's where I grew up in the uptown section of New Orleans. It was an affluent area.
There was all these stars around.
Oh yeah, but they were all around me, you know. And then when I got to work with WWOZ on radio, for 14 years, I got to host the Jazz Tent, in which I would introduce all of the name Diana Krall. That's how I met Lawrence Fishburne, Santana. I got to introduce just a mountain of people, and because I was the one that would get on stage, and I had a knack for remembering names of the band members, and 15 minutes before they would go on stage. And I would introduce the band and call out all the names, and they would saying, how did he do that?
Sometimes 7, 8, 9 people out there.
Yep. I just focused, you know, and they really enjoyed that. McCoy Tyner, piano player for John Coltrane. I mean, all of these people, and it was such a blessing for me to be in that.
Well, I know
that
you. I love having this show. One of the reasons I love having this show is you get to meet all kinds of different people, and
Right.
hear about really different backgrounds, and people are writing books about things you never heard of. And then they explain it and say, oh my Lord, how come I never heard about that
Right,
before?
right. And then when I was doing my movies, I started that around 1998. Go ahead. And I met some great people in the movie industry too. So
I just noticed the clock again, and we're almost out of time. I got officially about 20 seconds left. Henri Smith, I want to thank you very much for coming down to the Writer's Block after working all day
Yeah.
and spending some time with us and sharing your experience in New Orleans and your experience after you transplanted yourself up here in North. Thanks very much for coming down.
I'm happy to be here, John. It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure.
It's been too long. I want to thank you in television land for being with us as well. This has been a wonderful show for me, very interesting, and proud to know and learn a little bit more about Henri Smith's background. If you have learned a little bit about that background and jazz and education and all the topics that he spoke about, then the Writer's Block has done its job tonight. And I hope to see you again next week on the Writer's Block. Good night.